The dog stopped going near the west wall in November. Not growling, not barking, just stopping. Sitting down 3 feet away and staring at the drywall like something on the other side was staring back. The family thought it was a quirk. Dogs have quirks. They were wrong about that. The Mercer family bought the house in September. 4 bedrooms, good school district, motivated seller. The previous owners had moved out quickly. Estate sale, minimal negotiation, keys left in the mailbox. Nobody thought much of it. Sellers are strange sometimes. People grieve in weird ways. The house was built in 1987. It had the bones you want. Solid drywall, good insulation, a heating system that actually worked. In October, when the temperature dropped, they noticed the west side of the house stayed warmer than the rest. Comfortable warm, the kind of warm you stop noticing because it feels nice. By November, the dog had developed his habit, and by December, the youngest daughter, 8 years old, told her mother she could hear something moving in her bedroom wall at night. Not scratching, dragging. The pest control contractor arrived on a Tuesday. He walked the perimeter, checked the attic, found nothing unusual. Standard inspection. He was packing up his kit when he stopped in the hallway outside the daughter's room. He asked how long the smell had been there. The Mercers didn't know what he meant. They'd stopped noticing it weeks ago. That faint undertone, like copper and something organic and sweet, so low you filtered it out without realizing. The contractor didn't filter it out. He'd smelled it before. He pressed his palm flat against the west wall of the hallway. It was warm from the inside. He told them to call a structural inspector before they did anything else. He didn't explain why. He just said it quietly and left. And later the family would remember that he didn't charge them for the visit. The structural inspector found it 3 days later. Behind the drywall at the end of the upstairs hallway, where the floor plan showed only dead space between the daughter's room and the exterior, there was a room. Not a crawl space, not a utility gap, a room, roughly 8 feet by 6. With a door that had been drywalled over from the outside, seams mudded and painted, seamlessly integrated into the wall. It had been done carefully, professionally. Someone who knew what they were doing had made that room disappear. The question was whether they'd sealed something in, or sealed something out. They opened it on a Friday afternoon in December. The contractor, the inspector, and the father. The mother kept the kids downstairs. When the first section of drywall came away, the smell hit them like a wall. Not unpleasant exactly. Layered, warm, animal. They cut a larger section. The inspector shone his flashlight through the gap. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he told the other 2 men not to look. But here's where it gets strange. The room wasn't abandoned. It wasn't a storage space gone wrong or a forgotten nursery. The walls were bare. The floor was bare. There was no furniture, no boxes, no belongings. There was only the mass in the center of the room, approximately 4 feet in diameter, moving, slowly, rhythmically, the way something breathes. What the inspector was looking at was a rat king. If you've never heard that term, here's what it means. Sometimes in conditions of extreme crowding, rats become physically fused. Their tails become knotted together, matted with blood, with filth, with the slow accretion of weeks of confinement, until they can no longer separate. They become one organism with many heads. They survive by working together. The living ones drag the dead ones. The dead ones are replaced, documented, real. Specimens exist in museums across Europe, dating back to the 1600s. What the inspector counted, before he stopped counting, was somewhere above 40 animals. The ones on the outer edge alive and moving. The ones at the center still. The room had kept them warm all winter. The insulation that made the west side of the house so comfortable had become a perfect incubator. Nobody expected what happened next. The inspector, doing due diligence, pulled the permit history on the room. What he found was that the room had existed on the original 1987 floor plan. It was a standard bedroom. It appeared in every inspection record through 2019. Then it disappeared. The family that had owned the house from 2019 until they sold it, the ones who left quickly, who left the keys in the mailbox, who didn't negotiate, had filed a noise complaint with their city council in February 2020, dragging sounds inside the walls. The complaint was dismissed. Old houses settle. They'd sealed the room in March 2020, 4 months before they listed the AG. What remains unexplained is this. The room had a lock on the inside. Think about what that means. A lock on the inside of a room that was walled over from the outside. Either the previous family sealed the door after something, locked it from within. Or the lock had always been there, standard hardware from 1987, and the room had simply been a room until it wasn't. Pest control took 3 days to remove the colony. They wouldn't say exactly how many animals. They described it as a significant infestation. They used the word significant in a way that meant something else. The daughter stopped hearing sounds in the wall the first night after the removal. But here's the thing about infrasound. The low-frequency vibration produced by a large animal colony moving in coordination inside an enclosed space. It operates below the threshold of human hearing. You don't hear it, you feel it. Unease, the sense that something is watching you. Peripheral shapes that vanish when you look directly at them. The family had been living inside that frequency for 3 months. Every morning the father had made coffee and thought the kitchen felt slightly off and couldn't explain why. Every night the mother had woken at 2 a.m. and lain still for a few minutes listening to nothing before going back to sleep. The daughter had started leaving her light on. The dog had known from the first week. The house was never haunted. It was occupied. And the family, by the time they understood this, had been living alongside that occupation for months. Comfortable, unsuspecting, sleeping 8 feet away from something that had been growing since 2019. The retrospective horror of that is the thing that stays with you, not the discovery. The before the discovery, every ordinary Tuesday, every normal dinner, every night they told the daughter she was imagining things. The house looked exactly like a house is supposed to look. That was the point. The room was properly demolished. The wall was opened up, inspected, resealed. The Mercers stayed. They repainted the hallway in January, a warm off-white, the kind that photographs well. The dog goes near the west wall now, most of the time. There's something about this story that gets under your skin in a way that ghost stories don't. And the reason is simpler than it should be. A ghost requires you to believe in something. This requires nothing. Warm house, motivated seller, A smell you stop noticing. A sound your contractor doesn't charge you for. The horror of ordinary places isn't that something supernatural slipped inside. It's that something completely natural did, and the house just accommodated it, kept it warm, kept it hidden, looked exactly right from the street. You've probably pressed your hand against a wall and felt it was warm and thought, good insulation. I'm not saying you're wrong, but the previous family filed that noise complaint in February. They sealed the room in March. They never said what made them stop trying to open it again.